Hi, I'm Grover Jackson, and I am a guitar maker. I've been making guitars for a long time. I used to own a company called Jackson Charvel. About a year and a half ago, John Gold and I began GJ2 guitars, which is our new guitar brand.
I've been in the music business, specifically the guitar business, for most of my working life. While he's the building, designing, innovating part of what we do, I'm the sales, marketing, and whatever else I have to do part of the equation.
I had been doing job shop work for a lot of companies over the last 10 years while my kids were growing up, doing work for Fender and Rickenbacker, G&L, James Trussart, Roger Sadowski, a lot of people in the industry. I ran into John at an NAMM show in 2011.
He was ready to start building guitars again. I'd recently left Fender and really wanted to continue my work in the guitar business and have my own brand.
GJ2 is a sort of double entendre kind of thing. It's Grover Jackson the second time around, but it's also John Gold and Grover Jackson, so Gold Jackson, and there's two of us.
We build our guitars here. Some companies make some very nice instruments, but they're buying their necks and bodies from other people and they're assembling their guitars. So we start off with most of our guitars with raw lumber, which we cut into the right size pieces and create a guitar from scratch.
The design starts with me sitting in front of a computer and having an idea for something, and then in the modern way of manufacturing, everything lives in the computer before it ever becomes a physical reality. It has to be a virtual reality first. So everything is planned out in a computer before we start. Then we program the CNC machine to make the wooden parts.
CNC machines are a very important part of guitar building these days. It allows us a level of quality and consistency that wasn't available before that. So we end up with a much better product, a much more consistent product, a much more stable product by using these machines.
We do everything that we can with CNCs possible, and then everything that makes sense to be done by hand, we do by hand. So it is an amalgamation of modern technologies and traditional technologies.
Once we get through all of the parts of the process that can be done better by a machine, then we stop and the handwork takes over. Fretting the instruments, putting on binding, applying inlays, sanding.
And then from there we go to the paint shop, do all of our painting in-house. Ernie Pedregon is our painter who started with me 35 plus years ago at Jackson Charvel.
We then take the instruments from paint into the buffing department, which is where the painted bodies are given a final sanding and then buffed on a buffing wheel with polishing compounds to bring them up to the really beautiful high gloss finish that our guitars have.
James Hoyt is with us as our polishing and finishing and fret leveling guy, and James came to us from the Fender Custom Shop.
I spent the last 6, almost 7 years working for the Fender Custom Shop, doing everything, mainly the relicing, all the hardware, a lot of fret dressing and a lot of buffing.
Eugene Organ is our assembly manager, who is an experienced professional guitar player who had a band in the 70s that toured the world and then took a little hiatus away as a cabinet maker.
I worked in the music retail business in London when I was younger, which is in fact where I met John. Bumped into John again after 30 odd years, and he said, well, we have a guitar company, we're getting off the ground. One thing led to another, and I ended up closing my business and going to work for John and Grover. The bulk of what I do here is assemble the guitars, making sure they play properly before they go out the door.
We try to be as much of a vertically integrated manufacturer as we can.
We have our own brand of pickups called Habanero, which are made in-house, voiced by Grover to get what we think are the best tones for our instrument. It's all about tone, not necessarily out-and-out power, but tone. Most of the guitars we make are one of two different constructions. They're either neck through body. It means that the neck goes from the very end where the tuners are all the way through to the base of the instrument. So the strings are suspended on the same piece of wood right the way through. Or they're bolt-on neck guitars. And for those, we have a separate body, a separate neck that are screwed together. The bolt-on neck guitars are much easier to make and they're modular. So we have a lot more flexibility what we can do with those instruments, and we can create a beautiful guitar at a much lower price point. The neck through body guitars are part of Grover's legacy of being in the industry. Many years ago when he built a very iconic guitar for Randy Rhoads, that guitar was made with the neck going right the way through the body, which was a very major departure from what else he was doing at the time, and it became a real trademark for Grover. So we have our Glendora range of guitars that are bolt-on neck guitars, then we have our Concord and our Arente ranges, which are neck through body guitars. There's a fourth range as well, which is fairly new to us and only just starting to be built, which is the Zora. The Zora is a third kind of construction, which is a set neck construction. And the set neck construction is when you have a body and a neck, and rather than screwing them together, you glue them together. So it's that kind of construction, which again has another character of its own and tends to lend itself to a different kind of instrument. One of Grover's greatest inventions is the compound radius fingerboard. And every one of our guitars, regardless of model, has a compound radius fingerboard. And once you've got used to playing one of those, there's really no going back. Nothing feels or plays like it. Every one of our guitars plays like a dream, whether it's one of our entry-level models or one of our most expensive, custom solid rosewood models. They all play as well as each other. We've been very fortunate to get some really high-level players using our guitars very early on. One of our first artists is Tom Dumont from No Doubt. He's been very supportive of us, and in fact was very important in the development of the Zora. He put a lot of design input into that, and we're very happy to have him working with us.
GJ2 Guitars is a company that was formed to make the highest quality USA-made guitars available.
We think we're building guitars that are as good as anything on the market today at any price in terms of sound, playability, and looks.
I've spent a lot of years trying to perfect the techniques that we use. We are making the finest guitars that I've ever made in my life.